Evolve 360, a holistic approach to life, is an exploration of learning through experience to transform individually and culturally as a whole by taking a 360-degree look at our quality of life, including the limiting beliefs, worn-out paradigms, and destructive habits that have led us to where we are today, and instead create or revolutionize a new life vision that brings greater peace, appreciation, fulfillment, clarity, happiness, and joy as we ultimately evolve. So in this episode, Shelley and I will take a deep dive into how to discern from the story that we tell ourselves by recognizing our own duality, that shadow and light side that is within us, to get a clear vision of yourself. You do this by seeking the truth and lifting the veil of illusion to gain clarity and direction to navigate these uncertain times. Faith and trust are a must to move forward into the unseen future. So let's get started. Welcome to the Evolve 360 Shelley Shell Show with host
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Devine. Hey, soul sister, how are you?
Hey, soul sister, what a great day. It's another day, and we have so much to share with you guys today. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot going into illusion.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't listen to our last episode, we spoke about life on pause and, reality shattered.
And creating a new normal. So today, how do you create a new normal? Well, before we even start, I want to share with you, because the theme of the show today is create clear vision. And I remember, and this is something that I want everybody to think about, because we're going through a time of transformation and change and chaos. So I was involved in something like that a while ago. Mm-hmm. And what happened to me, so I walk into my office one day, and I sit at my computer, and all of a sudden, it's like I was like in a smoky bar, way back from the 80s when you'd go into like the smoky bars. And I said to my secretary, come here, look at this computer screen. Well, what I didn't realize is that it had nothing to do with the outside world. It was something that was happening inside of me because of the tremendous amount of stress I was under. And I decided to call the doctor that day, and I went to see my eye doctor. And when he checked me out, I had gotten, crazy enough, I had cataracts. So, we talk about what happens in our body and how that starts reflecting because of that stress that we're carrying, all this stuff. And, I was going through my own transformation. This was over 10 years ago. Mm. And at that point, my doctor's like, because I was always like wearing glasses or, to read. And he's like, hey, guess what? We can do something really cool now because you have cataracts, and we can take them out and we can put in lenses. So I'm like, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I'm sharing this story with everybody is sometimes during this chaos time and things, things happen. All of a sudden you realize there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And my light, like my girlfriend told me at the time, was you were going to have clear vision, 20/20 vision. Because at that time I was seeing cloudy. It was hard for me. I couldn't drive at night because it was this very, and I'm young, I'm like, you think someone getting cataracts is like when they hit 80 or 90.
Yeah, right.
But not really. And it was the stress that I was under created that in my eyes, because for some reason I had to have clear vision. And I wanted to share that because I really went through a hard time. But after I got my eyes, fixed, and after I went through, whatever the thing that I had to go through, then it was like walking in a beautiful field and seeing clearly. I think of when you go to a mountain and you see the whole valley below you. And that's how I felt. So, it was a crazy time, but so many beautiful things came out of it, starting with my health. So we need to think about that, because what is your clear vision?
Right, right. Oh, yeah. I could speak about vision. We'll probably get into it. I'll probably share a few things about mine and in the last, how mine has changed, but it was self-imposed and it was shutting down,
Okay.
not allowing universal life force energy to come in. I said, the hell with you, God. I don't want you no more. And I mean, you get to a point and it definitely has affected my vision on seeing things clearly. And I mean, I had my reasons, and
We
the
all do,
universe,
right?
yeah, we all do.
And
And
sometimes we don't want to see with the eyes that we have what's really in front of us.
yeah, exactly. Because of, we have to go through that transformation of
Right.
change and deal with all those fears that,
And it's hard and it's hurtful.
yeah, of loss and separation and
Oh,
and losing things and actually, we have willpower to choose
right.
how we choose and who we choose with. And I don't mean externally, like with people in your life. I mean with God and source,
Right.
because we have to surrender to that. Like now with this COVID-19 thing,
Surrendering is hard and
surrendering
yeah.
is huge, and it's surrendering your own will
And you
to,
know why it's hard? Because you have to release the control.
yeah,
Because we're always trying to control everything. It's my
yeah,
way. This is the way it has to
yeah,
be. And we
yeah,
talked about our beliefs and how those drive us in a certain way. But sometimes you've got to and we have a show coming up on that.
yeah. Oh
Gotta
yeah.
get naked.
So
Yeah.
did you want to set an
I
intention
really, yes,
for
I
this
do.
show? That would be great.
I want
I
everybody.
have when you're done, I have a little
Ah,
quote to add, but go.
okay. So Shelley and I have decided that we're going to set an intention for every show that we do because we want you to tune in and see how this sits with you and resonates with you. And it's important for us. So at this moment, I want everybody to just take a deep breath and we're going to set an intention for today on creating vision. And I want everybody to listen to the fact that you can change. Sometimes people say, oh, you can't, you're too old or you're too set in your ways. No, the only person that we can change is ourselves. So with that said, we always have to start with our vision. And vision doesn't mean doing, it means being. It means being and sitting with what you're going to be doing. So see it. And if you see it, you can will it, and then you can be it. So at this time, I want you to be with it, knowing that you can change. If your life is at a point right now where you're going in all different directions, just sit and be still and let's create the vision. Create your vision. I know that we're all there. We're all creating vision. So today we're going to be the creators of our own vision.
Oh, that was beautiful. And I'd like to add to that a quote from Carl Jung. It's, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart.
I love Carl Jung.
Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Isn't that a beautiful quote?
I love that.
Yeah. And it
That's
goes right along with what we're going to be talking about today, and really getting into your internal guidance and
totally.
and sifting through the mind muck and the illusion of what is being manifested in reality, and how we contribute to that in our small little individual worlds, the micro, and
Yeah.
how it expands out into the macro, into our governments, and we see that
And
on,
it trickles down to us.
external. Yeah, it comes. It's this nice
Yeah.
little flow. I mean, it's like it's it's within us, but what is within us is also external, because that's what we're manifesting out in the world.
Totally. And I wanted to share something with everybody and with you, because when I was a little girl, my favorite movie on whole time was The Wizard of Oz. And I was so disappointed. And this is such a great analogy to what our theme is for today, because you see the Wizard of Oz and you think the wizard is like greater than yourself. And it's the illusion that everybody created, right? They gave them all this power and in this beautiful place, thinking that you can go to the wizard and you would get your heart or get your courage.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened when we just totally went behind the curtain and saw? It was just a little old man just
pulling strings.
pulling the strings,
right,
like a puppeteer.
Yeah.
Controlling everybody.
Or a magician, the sleight of hand, you know, like the magicians, they tell you that they're gonna do a trick, and they're openly telling you, but how we actually kind of love all that though too. You know, we love to be you know, things that are trickery and
well, they're intriguing, right?
Yeah, they're intriguing. It's like, how did he do that? And then there's some sort of explanation for it. We just don't know how it is, but they've studied and they've figured it out. I don't know, with physics and who knows, like science.
But it's intriguing because you want to know, like, you're going to go see the wizard and he's going to be the almighty and you know, solve your problem. But that's why we have to open up that veil of illusion, because it's an illusion that create within ourselves. It's that clear vision that we have to see and realize that doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
that doesn't really. The wizard. I mean, I was like so disappointed, but I still love that movie.
Yeah.
I still watch it. It's great with the Munchkins, and it's just really good.
It's very entertaining, and it I mean, it speaks to so many things in society and how we relate as we are creators of say our reality, but how do we go about it, and how do we do it clearly with so many distractions. You know, like at the beginning you were talking about, like, you know, that scattered brain of like, hey, do I go in this direction? How do I know where to go? What do I invest my time and my effort? What is influencing me to go in this?
Or your mind.
You know, like your mind muck, and dealing with, you know, clearing out the mind muck. And the best way to do that, is through quieting the mind through meditation. But sometimes people are like, I don't like meditating. I'm like, well,
I know I have a hard time because I get be so hyper. So just sitting still and being is the best way to tap into yourself. And just sitting with whatever. And a lot of times when I go to sleep at night, if I have something that I need to get an answer from, I just set an intention. And a lot of times in the morning.
Ask a question, like, you know, I need some help with this guy. I need guidance, and, you know, just qualify it, you know, from source and pure light. And, you know, and if there's shadow involved, you know, let me see that clearly. You know, let me see the falsehood in, you know, the shadow aspect of.
Well, because with illusion, we could get tricked. And that's where the trickster comes in. And we're going to start talking today about symbolic language, because that's what joined Shelley and I together with the courses that we took with Carolyn over 2 years. And that was such a beautiful time. I know it was for me, and it was a beautiful time because I met you. And I learned so much, and we were changing. And it's, you know, I had said earlier in one of our shows, it was a magical time for me. And it was going to like a little place outside of this world, and just being in seclusion and just being loved and nurtured.
I felt like being, you know, when we went there, it was like being up on Mount Olympus.
I know, we used to talk about
like, and a really funny, this is kind of like something that happened when we were leaving. We were at the airport and we were coming down from Mount Olympus.
Oh my gosh.
and I was like, whoa. And I mean, literally, like, I mean, I had to ground. It was we were in the cosmos with Carolyn, and then we had to come down through what was it, Kairos, and then Chronos and Kairos.
Well, Well, we were in a beautiful setting, and all of a sudden we go into the airport, and you know how airports, at least how they used to be, they were crazy, because this was almost 20 years ago, and people were scattering and running, and just, you know, it was right after 9/11, but still the airports were full of people. We almost missed our flight. Remember, we were like, oh, the world Great.
Yeah. Well, I think I missed a flight. Like I probably had a transition flight and I had a craving for ice cream or something. And I sat there and watched everybody get on the plane. I was still like,
and you're eating your ice cream.
and I'm eating my ice cream, loving it. And then I go to the door and they're like, I never heard the call. I'm like, and they're like, yeah, it's already been reported. They're gone. I'm like, I watched them get on. And I'm like, ice cream. But the funny thing about it is, thank God you brought peanut butter sandwiches with bananas, because
I love peanut butter and banana.
Going by, like it was like so surreal. I was like, what is happening here? I'm like, I'm feeling my head just come down to another place in time. And it was like
that's how it felt.
In the zone, but not being in the zone. It was completely different than like a sports related being in the zone and stuff. This was completely different.
This was like being in a spa for like a year and getting nurtured and pampered and just, all the smells. And it was like an energetic spa.
Yeah.
And that's the best way I could describe it. You just didn't worry about anything. And when we start talking more about, archetypes and time, we were in a different time zone. At least that's how it felt. It was just delicious and
felt
you just
and then
what bills do I have to pay?
And then coming down to earth, coming down to earth, because it was like, wow, integrating everything, and then actually really grounding it into kind of like into mud. And the messiness of life, because the messiness of life. The airport is just it's just like all these people walking by, and it's bustle and you're like, oh my gosh. But there was this weird feeling about time that I had, and that's what was throwing me off. Right. It totally threw me off. And then you grounded me with the peanut butter and banana.
Peanut butter, mommy. Mommy.
I know. I was like, oh, thank God.
Peanut butter and banana.
Oh, man. I was like, great. Whoa.
I remember.
Sitting.
And then after the time that you missed the flight, we decided to get connecting flights together, remember? So it's like we were together until we reached, because we always had to fly in, I think it was through Dallas.
Yeah.
And then we would take off on our own routes, but at least for that first couple of hours, and because it's important. So it's the illusion of being up on Mount Olympus and then coming back into the world that we live in, which is, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
It's always coming and going. But you could be in the middle of, I live in Miami, so it's like being in the middle of the eye of the hurricane. Right. We have hurricanes here, and I'm praying that we don't have one this year, but and when we've had it, it's like, it's funny. One day I was, hurricane was coming, and you wait and you wait and you wait, like, as and you're prepared. So I had gone over to one of my girlfriend's houses, and we're waiting, and so long story short, she's like, there's nothing going to happen. We were in the middle of the eye of the storm, and all of a sudden we look out the window, and there goes flying by a washing machine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got to get in the closet, because that was getting really scary. It was like 75-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was like twirling. And so that's how life is. Things could be twirling and flying all around you, but you have to be grounded in the middle, in the eye of the storm. There's peace.
Yeah.
So getting back to the illusion.
Okay. So maybe we should define illusion a little bit, so people
Let's do that. What is an illusion? We talked about the wizard pulling, and so how can you lift your veil and so that you can see clearly? And what do you see?
Yeah. And illusion has to do with your perception and how you perceive or interpret, say, reality, or using your senses, how you perceive things, and what is true or what is false. And is it based on a false belief or an idea that could be universally false. And when we're talking about illusion, I think we want to go back to what is universally true. As we're in this global pandemic, and we want to move forward in creating a global community that is not struck by illusion anymore. We're seeing things clearly from how we interact responsibly with people that are close to us in our homes, as
Right.
well as on the government level, you know, externally, country to country. And right now that isn't happening.
Well, we're in chaos. The
Yeah.
whole world is in chaos.
Yeah. And it's
And
how we
yeah,
perceive things, and then the actions and the steps that we take. And right now, I think that's why things, you know, partly have shut down, because a lot of us in our homes were like, you know, something's got to give here. The government ain't doing it. You know, like something's
well, you
wrong.
can only rely on yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we put this show together, is because we want people to know that you have total control of your life.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
Yeah.
And that's important to know. And how are you going to see the illusions that are in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the best,
Yeah.
and the best way is to start becoming aware,
Mm.
and becoming aware of the language that a lot of us use, which is symbolic language.
Mm.
You know, what's around you, what's coming into your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how can you lift that veil of illusion to see clearly, to see if
Yeah.
that's really a truth of your own,
Mm-hmm.
or is it a collective truth? And right now there's so much information about,
Yeah.
you know, everything that's happening. Basically,
Mm.
to me, there's so much information that there's no information.
Yeah. So it's like basically what's literal fact based, and
Right.
then what is symbolic, which is an interpretation
Right.
of images, and you're sensing something else. You're using your intuition as to determine what reality could or should be.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about that is, when we're talking symbolically, we're not talking literally. We're talking to take a look at it and say, okay, what is the feel of this? Maybe what is the archetypal pattern that's happening here? What's the light and shadow of the archetype? And, you know, the positive or the negative part of it, because it's all combined. And discerning between what are the motivations or the influences that are you know, causing, say, a situation. Some examples that are out in the public now, like to give you a good idea how to go about, and you could try this with yourself, is you know, right now we have a president that says fake news all the time. What does that mean? Fake news? Is our media giving us false information? And then how are we discerning that? Is it illusionary? Is it really happening? And how do we navigate through that? Because it gets really confusing, and then we're taking all that information into our brains, and we're like getting mental overload.
Right.
And it's like, how do we discern what is illusion on that macro, that huge level, and then bring it down to us and live it in our lives? And right now we're not doing maybe that great of, or maybe our news media isn't doing a great job of it, because we can't discern what's true or not.
Well, it's the meaning also that we give this symbolic
Yeah.
language based on our experiences, our projections. And that's part of this whole illusion. And it's important for us to realize that, because a lot of times, and we get talked about beliefs and truths because of our culture or our society in the past, that we just have, you know, we hang ourselves to them, and it no longer serves us. It's part of an illusion. It's something that we keep hanging on, because it's always been this way, or because my parents did it this way, or my whole culture is this way.
Yeah.
And I talk to you about my culture. I'm Cuban, so you can imagine we have all these different things that don't serve me, because I was basically raised in the United States, and I wasn't raised in Cuba. So it's a different culture. We still embrace our culture. I love my culture. I love my heritage. But there's a lot of stuff that to me is an illusion, that's culturally biased by what's happening.
Right.
And it's the projection and the meaning that we give this symbol of how it relates to us. And the best thing that we could do is, again, just be with it and see if it serves you today or not. And talking about, you know, what's happening today, it's important to understand that there's so much information that, to me, and I hate to say this, but I just don't believe anything anymore, because it's like you're getting it from all angles, and it's like, who's speaking the truth?
Yeah, well, that is actually harmful to our systems because it desensitizes us
Right.
to things that, to values that are high integrity values. We
Right.
start to lose where we start to negotiate where we have integrity, because it doesn't become black and white. It becomes, there's a lot of gray area in here,
A
and it's
lot of
like, which
gray.
way do I
A lot of gray.
go?
Mhm.
And that can be with, high values,
Right.
and you're negotiating high values, your own integrity, which
Mhm.
this gets down to the micro, is like, where are you going to negotiate, oh, well, I'm going to take this job here and I'm not going to feel good in it, but I'm going to
Right.
do it because, the government is
Or it's
doing
attached to a big
whatever,
paycheck,
or
because we get seduced by things that, but then you have to, it's a balance of your power.
yeah,
So you have this big paycheck coming in, but then what are you giving up?
yeah, yeah,
And that's, the vision that you have to have. You have to have clear vision, because a lot of times we don't have clear vision and we get sucked in. But then the reality of it is you pay.
yeah.
You
You
pay
pay
greatly.
with your biology.
Yes, you
Pay with your
do.
biology.
You
And
pay.
you
Now you're
said that
working.
at the very
Yeah.
beginning with the 2020 vision. I know for myself, I've negotiated stuff because I had beliefs about a relationship that I was in, and it really hurt, and I shut down. Like, I
Mhm.
shut down my intuition, because I didn't want to see things clearly, or I could only see things at the level I could see them at the time, because I was fearful of loss, or I didn't like what the information I was getting from the universe, from God or whatever. And it took time to get through that, but it definitely affected
And
me
and you bring
physically.
it right. You bring up a good point, and that's seeing clearly.
Yeah,
And a lot of times it's the illusion that we create, and that's a perfect example, because you didn't want to see clearly what was right in front of you, and what
yeah,
you
yeah,
knew intuitively, because we all know intuitively. We
yeah,
all have that sixth sense, which is intuition, but we don't use it enough. And
yeah.
we know, boy, do we know, but because we want to attach ourselves, it's like you're clinging for dear life to
Exactly.
something that is
Belief.
energetically telling you this
Yeah,
doesn't serve you anymore.
yeah,
You need to let it go, but you're there going, but wait a second, maybe if I could just have one more chance. And
yeah,
we've all been there.
yeah,
We've all been there, especially with relationships,
yeah,
coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, oh my
yeah,
gosh. But no, maybe that person came into your life because you had to learn a life lesson.
yeah. And
And seeing,
rehashing it
yes.
over and over in your head and not letting go of the past.
And
And
that's
that's an
part of the
illusion.
illusion.
That is an illusion.
Totally
And
an illusion.
you're supposed to be in the present moment,
Yeah.
and then worrying and fearing about the future. And it's like, what are the trigger points for that? And it was based in my own illusions
Right.
about how I felt about myself, and
Mhm.
doing it individually on my own, say, as
Right.
opposed to, grasping onto something that I was familiar with. And there was nothing tangible about it, which is really kind of an interesting thing about
Mhm.
illusion and reality.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a paradox between the two. Is sometimes you have to have the faith to trust what is unseen, even though
Oh my gosh.
physically the reality is what it is. Like, there's
Right.
a situation and it looks like this, smells like this, tastes like this, but that doesn't mean that that's really what's real.
Because
and
we don't
and
want it to be real, but it's
because,
right in front of us.
well, no, that's part of the illusion, but
Yeah.
it's also having faith to trust into what you're trying to create,
That
in
you can't see,
that you can't see yet.
Right.
You have to kind of focus in on the destination. This is about creating, what you want in the future, but you can't see because what you have right in front of you is what you created in the past. And it's maybe in this moment, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay there. Change is always happening.
Totally.
So, I mean, it's always in momentum.
It's always moving.
And,
But here's the thing.
and you yourself are always growing and evolving,
Yes.
and what your not expectations, but what your desires are for your growth and to manifest them, they're a little bit out ahead, and you got to have that hang time, and you have to have the faith to trust that, okay, I'm going to get through this, like, especially during these times now, because that is really what's happening. We're all, oh my God, we're here, we're isolated, but this is like a golden opportunity to sit and start to really create what's going to come next for you. And it has the potential to be fantastic and really shift and change what is happening in our government. Because if you get rid of the fears that you have, and you really go inside, deep inside, and you acknowledge them, and you say, okay, I'm doing this for this reason, I'm doing that for that reason, let's clear that up, let's face that fear head on, let's do it. And then say, okay, what's the light side of this shadow aspect in me? Let's go into its light. And then create something that is not full of the current illusion that we're living in now and what we manifested.
Right. But here's what I want everybody to know, though, because as you're in the present time, which is the best place to be, you can't go back and use the past experiences or things to latch on to that. You got to take a machete and just cut that. It doesn't exist. You have to be in the present moment. And then with that jumping ahead, because we're all wondering, oh my gosh, like, I wish I had a crystal ball. What if I take, and it's the perfect example is the movie with Tom Hanks when he did Castaways at the end, where there was like 3 different roads, like he's in the fork in the road. Well, where do I go? Do I go left, right, or straight? Which direction do I go? And this is where a lot of us are at.
But he had a sign. He had a sign. Didn't he have a sign? And he went back to the woman. Like, he had that little, I don't know. So the universe was speaking to him. It was a symbolic sign. It was like, oh, that's the direction I'm going to go.
So we always have signs.
That happens. That's how
and it happens to us all the time. And that's what symbolic language is all about. But you have to have clear vision to see it. Yeah. You have to get that illusion out to see it, and you have to climb up on that high diving board, because a lot of us have that fear, high diving board, and just jump off and have trust and faith that you're going to land on your feet, because you are. Yeah. But you see, you're right. It's the symbols, and that's the symbology. Symbols are all around us. But I love that. I love that he just stands there and he's like,
well, it gives the audience, which is great about the movies and how movies bring in archetypal forces. I mean, you can find them in all movies, but what's great about it, it lets the audience decide if they saw it clearly, because you don't know which direction he goes in, even though it's obvious. Exactly. It's like, go that way. when we know it intuitively. In the audience, we know that intuitively. We are built for this. It is God-given. It is in us from the moment we're born, yet somehow we get it beaten and stomped out of us because we're trusting what's externally out and what we see out in front of us. But we gotta trust our gut and our instincts. And
you gotta totally go behind that curtain. Just lift that veil of illusion and look. Yeah. It's like when you're peeping out of your house, like you hear noise outside in the neighbors, or they're having a party and you weren't invited, right? And you're like, I wonder who's there. So, you look and you peep, you're peeping through the curtain, but you don't want anybody to see you. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. So lift that veil and peep, because what you might see in front of you is really a cool place to be in. But you got to just jump into it in that high diving board in the middle of the night, and you don't know what's underneath you, because that's how it is. You have to have faith. Yeah. You have to have a lot of faith. Yeah. Definitely. And with faith, when we're talking about clear vision, let's talk about discernment, because I love that word.
Oh, yes. Well, I think one of the things, like you can ask questions about discerning. Like if you're confused about something, you can ask, it's like, okay, what is the source of information, for one, and then to discern things. And then you can ask, is it contaminated by wherever that information is coming from? Say it's a person. Are they contaminating that information that they're giving you by their own life experience.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And Carolyn talked a lot about, is it contaminated? Like, is the information that's coming in contaminated, or the perception, your own perception? Are you contaminating it with your own life history? And that's a huge one, because I can say that there were probably times that I contaminated stuff. And, if you're giving advice to somebody and you haven't got your whatever together, and you're contaminating because you were, abused in a certain way, and then you just perceive the whole world that way, from a victim mentality or a victim, then your expertise and your information that you put out is contaminated if you're coming from that place.
Well, you put in a little bit of your experiences, and a lot of times we talk, especially if they have been painful experiences, we talk with conviction towards them. Yeah. But what we have to have is discernment, and discernment is sifting through all the information and finding facts, the truth, because we are seekers of truth. Yeah. And how are you going to find the truth if you don't seek it, if you don't do discernment? Because to me, discernment is what, is it a truth or a lie? How to tell the difference between that. You have to just shift. You have to seek to find, and you have to go through it like a detective.
Yes. And that takes it in internal inventory to make sure you're not contaminating, say, the truth, for one. Right. And then, two, make sure wherever you're getting that information from is not contaminated. And an example that is out in our culture now is all these conspiracy theories. Oh, now, I mean, like, who doesn't love like those shows like True Crimes or even like conspiracy, like, I don't know what, like these shows, like, the aliens came down and populated whatever from, area, whatever it is, back in, turn of the century or something. But I mean, like, who doesn't love that? And even some of the conspiracy theories that are going on now with COVID-19. Now, some of the stuff, I mean, I went because I was seeing these videos.
What'd you do?
I spent one Saturday night. I'm like, I am going to investigate this like a detective, and I'm going to find out what.
Oh my gosh.
True, and I'm going to debunk, like, what she said. And even though, like, I can't recall the woman's name, but she came out, it was like two weeks ago, there was like, everybody was posting stuff on Facebook about how it's not necessary to wear a mask. And it's from this woman who actually, this is how, you discern. Like, I'm watching the whole video. She's talking about, and she's very knowledgeable, for one. She worked on helping to create a cure for AIDS. So she was with that group. She worked with like our high officials like Anthony Fauci, and she worked with these people back in, say, the 80s.
Wow.
And so she's highly regarded scientist, but she got booted out from that crowd for whatever reason. I don't know what, but they kind of—
She didn't wear a mask.
Well, whatever. Back then, she didn't wear a mask, but she did, and her career was basically ruined. So she's coming back into the limelight, where these videographers posted videos, and we see this all the time. People,
a lot of information out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information, and
it's confusing. I mean, I'm confused by it.
Yeah, me too. And so she basically was, talking about how, a lot of this is a bit of a scam, and not to be,
oh my gosh,
and then how it might have started. She just, has all this stuff, but the trigger is she's coming out with a book. All right. Which is okay, but she's naming names of, government stuff, which some of the stuff is actually accurately factual, and you can look it up, what she's saying, but some of it is a little twisted. So I think from her background, she, from her experience of being, fired and
got it.
And like, kind of like, put off to pasture and stuff. Nobody wants to listen to you. Shut up, quieted down, because
he's projecting some of those feelings into.
So maybe it's possible. So that's what I was looking at to discern what she was saying. But then I went back, because earlier this year, there was another gentleman who, oh God, what's his name? Professor Francis Boyle. And he's a Harvard, or not Harvard, but he's a lawyer. And he actually wrote the U.S.
I love the way you say Harvard.
Yeah. I don't think he was from Harvard, but there's some Harvard-related professors that were arrested this past year.
I didn't know that.
And so this stuff is all fact-based, and the media doesn't cover a lot of this. He was basically poo-pooed before even COVID-19 came. He was warning the country. He was out in videos that were made by like these conspiracy theorists. And he's basically saying, listen, we got to wake up over here. This is happening. And if you don't believe it, you don't have to. And he had no motivation other than tell like the truth. And so to me, I was like, well, this is a guy, he's actually speaking from a firsthand knowledge of biowarfare, because he wrote the act back in 1989.
Wow.
And he was just, sounding an alarm for this country, but nobody was listening. Our government officials weren't listening, and they poo-pooed him. And he cited different articles, and the people, even our country, was involved. And this is about where, I'm going to get into the saboteur and how we're sabotaging ourselves. But these storylines on the macro, and going back to that macro, that high level, big global level of what our contribution, and we don't want to see this. We do, but we don't. We don't want, because we can't discern what is really facts, and we don't want to take the time to look and say,
well, it takes time. Being a detective isn't easy, but we've got to do that.
And we do. And these factual things, there was a professor at Harvard who was arrested earlier this year. It's in Massachusetts. It's on their law enforcement, whatever, was arrested with 2 other people during the same time that were involved with China. And swapping information. This was all paid for. It was funded by the World Organization Health System, all of this. And I mean, I like conspiracies because it's fun to listen and figure out. But I also want to discern what is actual fact here, and how does this affect us on an economic level with what's going on with this COVID-19 thing, and how are we going to move forward and vote in the right public officials as we move on this coming election, because this is coming into play on that huge macro level. Now bring it down to the micro level. It's like we have to take responsibility for this because we elected these officials. It's repeating. We talked earlier about this patterns.
History repeats itself. Right?
History repeats itself. And I'm going to go right to Einstein on this one now.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, but before you do,
I know is insanity is repeating the same things over and over again.
Remember what he said. You can change something, but you have to look at it from a different level.
Yes.
That were created on this level. You can't fix. You have to go to another level, and that's what we're telling everybody. You need to go to a level. You need to see clearly. You need to be a detective and discern. Because I, for one, yes, I watch the news and I watch all channels. I am not about politics. I am about what's good for everybody in the world. And I am so confused. The more that I watch the news, everybody has an opinion. Everybody is an expert. And you're like, people come in from all over the place, and it's like you're in a whirlwind. You're actually in a whirlwind. I feel sometimes like I'm in the hurricane. But you have to go into the eye of that storm and sit with everything that and discern and just do research and see what's going to work for you.
Yeah, and it's educating yourself.
Safety, our well-being. And yes, I wear a mask when I leave my house. Even if they say you don't have to, I'm still going to for a while because I'm concerned about my health.
And I'm concerned, but I'm also concerned if I could be a potential carrier and give that to somebody, that an elderly person that stood next to me in the grocery store, or the cashier or the medical professional.
So there's a lot,
or anybody.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what's going to be your vision?
Oh, I lost you. Hang on.
And you have to think contaminated.
Can you repeat that, because I lost you on there?
Oh, and not get contaminated by everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And think about it. We're contaminating our thoughts with things that might not serve us, which create an illusion for the world that we are living in. So if you discern, if you go through and try and find the truth, that's your truth, and look at it with those new eyes. And this is the year of 2020.
Isn't that funny?
And I know, it's crazy, right?
That was a good analogy, putting that one together, lady.
Hey, sometimes it comes, so
Yeah.
discern. It's 2020, and you have to have clear vision. And it starts with you in your home.
Oh, absolutely.
It starts with you in your home. And,
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe it's time to shut off the news media and listen instead. It's important to know what's going on the global level, for sure. And that's the reason why I looked at this, because economically, there's going to be shifts and changes. People are out of jobs right now. It's like, what jobs are going to be available? So these are, for some people, you're in
very trying times. And I have a lot of friends that own small businesses locally, that I'm trying to support them.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to shut their doors forever.
Right.
So I'm always listening to see. I know that we're opening up Monday, and I'm excited about that. And I'm going to support my friends as much as possible. And
that's important to do on, so many levels.
Absolutely.
But too, for those people that are in those positions of, if they're, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and their business are closing, or they can't keep it going.
Right.
For them to actually deal with this is to really be silent, like we've been saying. This is, and I know we're saying this over and over again, but it's so important to do that, because you have to confront the fears, and you have to detach. You have to debunk them. Just totally. On like, even like that's happening out there, but you have to bring it down inside yourself and debunk them too, and really face them.
And detach yourself from what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you get contaminated by everything, and then your mind can't think clearly.
Yeah. And if you are having a challenge with that too, one of the things that you can do is ask the universe to come in and take it, like to surrender it
to God. I always give
let
it
go
to God.
When you do what?
I give it to God.
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have been in my past, and even, sometimes I just say, God, help me with this. And I give it to them. That's what I do. But everybody does things their own way and differently. And it's not good or bad.
Yeah.
But it's just, you need to just take a step back and just be still and just be. Just be. Because to deal with this and to see the illusion and to have clear vision, you have to detach, and you have to see where you are and where you're feeling it. Use your intuition. It's so important, especially in today's world that we're living in, is your intuition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things too is you have a choice in the matter.
Totally.
And, like to choose, these are where our choices come into play. And, surrendering here, I'm going to talk about your physical body. This is about, like I spoke about the macro. Now I'm going to talk about the micro, which is within you, and it's this area here is a chakra area, and it's our throat chakra. It's the 5th chakra, and it's a high energy zone of surrendering your will to, say, divine will. And that's a difficult thing to do. And it comes in play where you can either empower yourself by allowing source to take that over. And right now, a lot of this pandemic and the COVID virus and being isolated in our homes, not having physical contact with other people that we miss, is against our will.
Right.
And how do we deal with that? And what we have to do is surrender this circumstance that we're in right now, and then start to begin the courageous journey of taking responsibility within ourselves, just ourselves, of where we're at today, and find, where am I, I'm going to use the government as an example, because they're doing things on an economic, like, okay, say China is, afraid that the US is going to have more power biogenetically than we are. So they did research, we were doing research. And it's all out of fear to have control and power over one country and over another. Right. So how do we contribute to that on our little scale, ourselves? And so when we're economically in business with, we have our own, say we have a restaurant or something, and then we're competing against so-and-so down the street. There's, there's a funny little example of this. There's a breakfast place in Somerville called, oh God, it's great too. There's two of them. I'm not going to name names, but it's on Broad Street. If anybody's listening, Broadway or whatever, and they'll know exactly.
We can go and we can go have breakfast.
But there's this story behind it. And I didn't grow up in Somerville, but the two owners, they're side by side, and they both have breakfast, but they used to be, I think, co-owners, and they had a disagreement and they split. Okay. And so they're like kind of at war with one another or something.
Oh, that's
they're right next door. But it's a little funny. It's human nature. Like, we might have some silly argument, and then we're like,
our ego.
Our ego. But economically, it's how do we compete with one another for, and they both do really well. That's the funny thing about it. That was my point. They both do really well. They shouldn't have to compete with one another. Do you know what I mean? Like
cooperation and collaboration.
Exactly. They don't. I mean, maybe things have changed. Maybe they've made up. I don't know. But that was like a little, story about it. And it's like, how do we, or in the workforce, you have, your boss, and maybe you're below them, but you're competing for that position or job. But maybe that's not really the right thing to be doing. You want it for whatever, reasons, because
again, it's the illusion, right?
The illusion that you're doing. And this little, these things that we do and interact with our neighbors or our teachers or our colleagues, it's the same thing as what our government is doing when it's interacting globally. And that's the macro picture down to the micro. It's a huge hologram.
It's power play.
How we're creating.
Exactly.
And so you have to, getting back to discerning and seeing that illusion. If you can see that, okay, well, this is happening out here. We have a current president that's kind of like, he's got the red hair and the fake tan, and he's calling on fake news. It's like, is he kind of a clown? And what's this hysteria about? Like, how are we sabotage? This is the saboteur. We are involved with the saboteur. And the competitive athlete are like looming around us. Who's going to win this war? Is it a win-win situation? Or, are we going to win at any cost, including bioengineering some sort of virus that could kill everybody? Well, it blew up in China's face and probably, this country's face. And how do we create that? I mean, everything's connected. Everything is connected.
So you have to be a detective.
And you have to be a detective to discern this. And then distill it down into yourself and say, how did I play a role in creating this? Bottom line.
Well, and you have to know that we are all co-creating our worlds every day. So it's important to know what your truths are,
Mm-hmm.
to see clearly, to have clear vision
Mm-hmm.
in with what is all around you and what you can touch,
Yeah. Yeah.
and lift the veil of illusion. Because there's a
And
lot of illusion out there today with
yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
Social media has totally created a world of illusion.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
and we have to discern what is truth and what is not a truth. And
Mm-hmm.
how does that truth fit within our lives to serve me and move forward and become better and just
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
So these are things that we want to share with you so you think.
Yeah. So there's beliefs. We have to kind of look and reevaluate your belief systems, because we create that within ourselves, our beliefs, and are they illusionary? Do they no longer serve us? Is it time to, this time is a great time to start going in and say, okay, I keep having this habit that I don't know why I do this. Well, now it's a time to ask, why am I doing this? And is it based on some belief that we've created that is illusionary, and it doesn't go along with say our life path vision of where we would prefer to be, and what we want to create as we move forward, say into the life vision that's set out ahead of us.
Right.
We are all right now co-creators manifesting something together, but do you want to do it the way we did it, through an egotistical way of doing things, selfish way of what has been taught in our culture? Or do we want to do it with source, by surrendering, coming into alignment through our bodies, through the chakra system, and see things clearly? This is seek only the truth. This is a universal truth that can be found across all cultures, in every religion. Here is surrendering to divine will. When you awaken, you start to realize that these things, okay, I have no control here. In some instances right now, I don't have control on how things can move forward, or how I can be currently right at this time. Like, there's other things that are limiting us. There are things that are limiting us. And to be able to move beyond that, we have to go into those fears and say, or the beliefs that are causing an emotional fear, an emotional response that causes something that feels maybe on the negative side of the emotional scale. And we have to say, okay, wait a minute, this is causing me to feel a certain way. That's intuition. I'm going to follow that emotion and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I behaving this way when I get triggered this way?
And we're going to talk about triggers in a show.
Yeah, good.
And power plays are huge.
Yes.
And who triggers you? And it could be people that we love in our lives.
Oh, most typically is, because they're usually some
totally,
soulmate
right? And usually the people that trigger you the most are those that we learn the most from, because there are lessons that we have to learn, because they have to do with ourselves. And I can't wait to do that show, because that's going to be a really good one. And it's about
yes, absolutely,
triggers and power plays. But if we go back to the whole theme of this show, is just think clearly, have clear vision. And we don't have to be in ego land, and we don't have to be in competitive land. We can collaborate, like those two guys that you were talking about. It's a shame, and things happen like that.
Yeah.
I have friends that have had arguments with people, and
I saw a movie about it. I can't remember what the name of it was. Such a cute movie. It was about two pizza owner, like a pizza store owner, and they had like the perfect pie, like the perfect crust. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but I just watched it the other night. And one family made the crust, like they had this great crust, and then the other family made the sauce. And when they worked together and they combined it, it was like this amazing pizza. Well, they won some sort of award, and then the two households, the heads of the households, the two men, got in an argument on who they should honor first. Their grandfather or their grandmother on the opposite sides. And they got in an argument, which nobody knew. The other family's members didn't know what started the war. And so they just went off like on a tangent, blah, blah, blah. So for years, they opened separate stores. And it was such a cute done movie. But meanwhile, the grandfather and the grandmother of the separate households, the grandmother who made the sauce and the grandfather who made the pie crust,
Right.
they wanted to, like, they loved each other, and they wanted to get, married. And
Oh, wow.
but then there's two children. It was like, kind of Romeo and Juliet, the Capulets against the whatever. And so the girl loved the boy and the boy loved the girl growing up. But then the fathers were like, hell no, you guys can't be together. And hell no, you can't be with them. All, it's just, throwing darts around.
Right.
Finally, the elders came together. They got married and sat everybody down and then said, this is how it's going to be. But it took years. And it's just so funny how these dynamics can happen in our household.
Oh my gosh.
Silly misunderstandings.
And there's so much energy that you're just pouring out in negativity. And it's not conducive to the world that we are in right now. It's, you got to just be in peace and flow and joy. And that's what this whole show is about, to get you to think about where you are and how you can just, co-create to be better and to have a better world and a better life.
Yeah.
Because
it is the human experience. We're going to experience all sides of life. And we want, naturally, all of us want to have the best possible, life experience. But part of it is pain and suffering, as well as joy and happiness and feeling really good. But, it's like, can we create something with clear sight?
Yes.
That is going to be better for not just ourselves, but for all. And we can live in, some form of harmony together, on that global, huge level where we're actually connected with the earth and the earth is feeling healthy and we're not depleting it. And animals are, like, huh?
We're honoring each other.
Yes, honoring each other, which is it's a second chakra truth. Right. It's a second chakra truth. If you're not honoring one another, you're going to feel things in your body. Illusion. I mean, I know, and Shelley was saying, to develop her 2020 vision, I had illusion here. I've had, like some chronic, like, stuff here. Right. And I have improved, but my sight and seeing things in my relationship have gotten clearer, and I'm not beating myself up with the past, which
you can't.
Yeah. And I mean, it actually, it affected my whole chakra system. And that's how you can tell when you're off course. Your health is going to go boom down when you're not in line with universal truths. And we can go through those. It's, in this we touched on two of them. One is surrender thy will to divine will and seek only the truth. That is the fifth chakra and the sixth chakra. And those are huge, and
to think clearly, I want to throw in a third there, which is honor yourself.
Yes. And that's your second chakra.
That's your
actually third chakra. It's self-esteem.
Right. And we're going to do a show on that too, because I know that I've gone through a lot of that, and but to think clearly and to have 2020 vision, you have to lift the veil of illusion.
Yes.
Cannot live in the past, have regrets. Things happen and they happen, and you have to just know that sometimes we don't know why things happen, but in the end, if we walk through that and leave behind what no longer serves us, we tend to shed hundreds of pounds of worry and, sickness a lot of times too. And then it's like you're free. And there's no better feeling than being free and being at peace. That to me is like, I love living there, being free and being at peace.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, do you have anything else you want to add, or should we?
No, I'm ready to do a little breathing here.
A little breathing? Okay, so I'm going to have you guys place your hand on your high heart and one on your belly to go back to that breathing exercise, and close your eyes and just notice as you inhale through the nose. Make sure you're not driving, by the way.
No, please.
Just settle in, get comfortable. One hand on your heart, one hand on the belly. And if you want, you can close your eyes as long as you're not driving, and begin to come through into your breath by inhaling through the nose and exhaling through slightly parted lips. And just take that inventory of noticing how the breath enters the body as it rises the upper part of the chest. Maybe you feel, as you fill up your rib cage, the rib cage expands out and away. And then you want to pull the breath all the way down into the navel and blow your belly up like a balloon. And then as you exhale, the navel comes closer to the spine. The rib cage contracts down closer to the spine, and your chest falls. And just follow your breath. And then I'm going to take you down deep, deep, deep down into your root chakra. It's your first chakra. And just imagine, this is down at the perineum, between the legs. And just imagine the color red. Maybe it's a big, bright red, brilliant red. And just hold the energy there. And that's your tribal, your connection to the earth, to the global community. And the truth here, all is one. And then move your awareness up to your navel, where your hand is, and imagine the color red. Actually, orange, sorry. I'm a goob. So just like a bright orange color.
Mm.
And maybe you even notice a scent of an orange or some orange blossoms. And just feel that. And this is where we are creative. This is our laboratory for creation. And the truth here, the universal truth or law here is honor one another. And then you're going to move up the spine, and you're going to come to, if you want to place your hand right at the solar plexus. And you're going to imagine a bright solar yellow, like the sun. Maybe feel it radiate. And this is where our self-esteem and how we negotiate ourselves lies. And here we'll find the truth. Honor thyself. This is where we love ourselves and we honor our own integrity. And then we move up to the heart, or the center of the chest. And imagine an emerald or a bright green, a radiant green. And this is where we love one another. And the power here is love is divine power, or true power. And then we'll move up to the throat region. And here you want to think of maybe a sky blue or a sapphire blue. Very intense, beautiful blue color. And this is where we can speak our truth. Creativity happens here. But this is where the truth lies. We surrender to divine truth. We give our truth over to Source or God. And then as we bring our awareness to our third eye or right at the brow between our eyes, think of a starry night in that indigo color of a beautiful starry night here. And this is where our illusions lie, or our judgments and the way we perceive and discern. And here, the truth is seeking only truth. And then we move the energy up to the seventh or the crown chakra, right at the crown of the head. And this, we'll imagine, is a violet. Beautiful violet, clear, pure violet color. And this is where we connect with Source. We connect with all that is. And the truth here is, be here now, or be in the present moment. And then if you're still with me and you can do this, you're going to raise the energy up through the crown of your head about 6 feet above your head. And there's a chakra outside of your body, and it's your 8th chakra. And I'm not sure what the color is there, but it could be a pure white light. And in that is information from the universe about who it is you are. It's different characteristics that come down and stream in, and you're connected to that, and that makes you the individual that you are. And it's time to tap into that. If you don't know, is to ask. And these are archetypes and contracts that we're here divinely given to align with. And so now I'm going to bring you back down as you take maybe that golden, pure white light, and it descends down in through the crown of your head, down through your, between the eyes, down through the throat, down through the heart, down through the solar plexus, down through the belly, down between the legs, and then down through your feet and into the ground, grounding this golden alchemy down all the way down into the core of the earth herself, connecting you to the earth and the heavens. And then slowly bringing that energy up, back up on that thread or that line of energy, that golden thread, up through your feet, up through that red chakra, that orange chakra, that yellow chakra, up to rest into your heart, into the green chakra. And just hold it there and take comfort in that, that you're loved, that you're not separate, that you're not alone, that you're important, and you're here in the now, seeking your truth with clear sight and love. So just stay here and feel that in your body. And I'm just going to read something that it was either a dream or something that I had some time ago. And it was, a man was standing over my body and covering his face with a black plastic bag, much like they have in morgues. And they were outside, and the other men were around preparing this man who had the plastic over his body for burial. And it looked like a small village that was a bit primitive. And the dead man was not that old because his hair was still dark. It wasn't gray. So he was a young man. But I sensed he was wise. His spirit was holding a tool for writing and motioning back and forth. So I got up out of bed and I began to write what he was trying to tell me. This was a premonition or a dream that I had. And here it is. Colors of the rainbow come to us in many forms, but the colors that are us are individual and have great light. Sound creates, color expands into more color. Still the mind, and you will see the rainbow. Who am I, being buried into the earth by loved ones who care so little? They've washed me, cleansed me, anointed me, and now they bury me into the earth. The hole is dug and I'm asleep. I'm free, back to where I belong. No more hurt, no more pain, no more pleasure, just liberation. I'm floating into the spectrum of color, expanding infinitely. I am one with it. Go to sleep, rest your head, because today I'm dead. Dead from life, dead from living. But what was life anyway, if not a choice to exist or not to exist? Now I'm dead. I'm here and gone into the ground, into the sky, I'm gone. Black ooze has come as my corpse decomposes. Worms eat my remains. I sit comfortably in a place of solitude, waiting once again for the light to shine on me and the color, the rich, vibrant color, to enter my soul with the sound of life. Growth is life. And just dwell on that. This is something that happens to all of us, just like we talked about, the butterfly effect, being in the cocoon. We're in a death cycle, and we will move into a rebirth cycle. And this man who channeled to me from probably across the seas, the oceans, told me this back in 2005. I love you all.
And I love you more.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the show today.
We hope you did. Stay tuned for more shows, and we hope that you've gotten a lot of it to help you move forward on your path. And don't forget to share with us what you'd like to have us talk about, what you've learned, what you want to know, because this is what we're all about.
Awesome. So on the next show, we will discuss the seduction of ourselves and wanting what we don't need. That fear of missing out. Yes. or keeping up with the Joneses, maybe. I don't know. We're going to talk about a few things. So we just both want to thank you for joining us on this episode about clear vision and lifting the veil of illusion. If you enjoyed the show, please go ahead and leave a review, because it helps people find the show. And on that review, mention how we might have helped you or inspired you or motivated you. And then never miss an episode of Evolve 360 Shelley Shell Show by remembering to subscribe, download on iTunes, or you can follow us on Facebook.com/Evolve 360 Life. This is
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Shell, or Shelley Devine, with Life Unplugged, Raw and Real. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Have a great one.